Kevin Hart was somebody who actually, we came up together in Philly at the Laugh House, and Kevin put me on some of the most horrible shows ever, but that's before Kevin Hart was Kevin Hart.
You know Kevin Hart was going to be Kevin Hart? Honestly speaking, what were your thoughts early on of Kevin Hart and his comedy to where he was going to go?
Kevin Hart did a show for me.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just ain't real life. Street stars. Know what time it is.
Comedians, it's always a question of how do you get in the game? Like you said, Apollo, Comic View. Was there any mentorship you had as far as anybody to put you in the game? Any hand, were they someone from up high grabbed down and said, I like Michael Shawn, I'm gonna pull him up during the first 7 months?
There was one guy named Wyatt, the One Man Riot. Now, if you remember Def Jam, where comedians would go on in the beginning, would get like 15 minutes. Yeah. They would get a set on there. Yeah. And Wyatt was he was a comedian, and he was also, this is so crazy, I can't believe I'm actually remembering this. He was a firefighter at the same time. Big dude, like an intimidating dude. But he was super nice. And he said, Mike, this is what you're gonna do. Go do this open mic. And then I started doing comedy shows. He's like, you're not that good, but you had the potential to be good. Then 9/11 happened. He was one of the first responders on 9/11.
Yeah.
And I actually called him to see he was all right. And it was like, he was good. That was the last time I spoke to him, but he was probably the one I've had other people who've helped me throughout. A comedian named Talent. If you haven't heard of Talent, then you don't know comedy. Kevin Hart was somebody who actually, we came up together in Philly at the Laugh House, and Kevin put me on some of the most horrible shows ever, but that's before Kevin Hart was Kevin Hart.
You know Kevin Hart was going to be Kevin Hart? Honestly speaking, what were your thoughts early on of Kevin Hart and his comedy to where he was going to go?
Kevin Hart did a show for me. Kevin Hart was always funny, but he was super silly. He was a silly, like, Kevin Hart, what was his original fucking name? It was the Bastard, something Little Bastard.
Oh, damn, I didn't know.
His original name was like Little Bastard or something. This is funny because Kevin Hart booked me on shows, and Kevin Hart went with me to Boston. We did a show in Boston. He was my opener. And we went up to Boston, did something, and that's so funny. That motherfucker really opened for me. He's doing a lot better than me right now. But I will say, no, we did the show in Boston, but Kevin always had something because his confidence is on 2 million. Like, Kevin is going to do what he does. And he always stayed consistent. He was like, he really, truly didn't give a fuck. Like, he really went all the way in. And I will say this about Kevin. I saw Kevin, every time I see him, he never changes. Like, I know he's worth probably, like, whoever knows. Like, at this point, he's probably 200 million. Who knows? But Kev, like, if I saw him right now, would talk to me exactly the way we talk when we was doing shots at the Laugh House in Philly.
That's awesome. I was just gonna ask, because 200 million makes some shit change in your life, especially how you perceive people that you used to deal with.
But like, everything that everybody says, everything on the outskirts, my personal experience with him, like, dog, one time when I was working, I was at K104, and I said, I know Kevin Hart. So they challenged me. They were like, since you know Kevin Hart was doing, he's all into the workout shit. So he was doing some thing where he would go to every city and he would run, like, I don't know, a half a mile, whatever it is, whatever he would run to every city. They're like, if you know Kevin Hart, since you know him so well and y'all was in Philly, go meet him and get us tickets for the show. And I sat there like a dickhead and I was like, all right, I'll do it. Knowing that I hadn't talked to Kevin for probably 2-3 years. Mm. So I went there with a backpack, had my little radio station shirt on and shit, and I finagled my way in, and security's like, you can't go through here. And I said, sorry, Kev. I said, I'm Kevin Hart's friend. They were like, yeah, whatever. And I sat there and I was standing there. I finagled my way through and I saw the navigator, Escalade, whatever, coming through. So he comes out the Escalade, and I'm gonna say pause, even though you shouldn't say pause. I made eye contact with him and I looked. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh shit, Mike." And I said, "Thank God." I said, my dude, I said.
Was anyone with you like this?
No, there was somebody with me. There was somebody from the radio station, an intern that was with me. And I was like, whew. And then I looked at security. I said, "I told you I knew this motherfucker." And Kev was like, "Yo, let him through. Like he was aggressive. He said, "Let him through." And then we did an interview after he ran. He ran the thing. I didn't run. Then we got into the truck. And the first thing he said, "You ain't run?" And I was like, "Nah, I ain't run." He said, "You a bitch. You ain't run for real?" He said, "I shouldn't do this fucking interview with you, right?" I was like, "Kev."
Damn.
So we did the interview, and I said, after we did the interview, I told him what was going on with the station. They challenged me. And he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna get you these tickets for everybody on the show. It's gonna be the front row. It's gonna be the front row. You're gonna be there, and I got you." So as he's on stage, God, I'm so groupie right now. As he's on stage, we at where the Mavericks play. So it's sold out as usual. And I'm sitting there and he's telling a joke. And he says, he looks to me, goes, "Ain't that right, Mike?" Dog, I was a bitch for real. I said, "Yes." and everybody was like, "Yo, you really know this motherfucker." But that, to me, my experience with Kevin Hart, that's how he's always been. He doesn't change for people that he knows.
Yeah.
Like he's never changed. And thank you, Kevin.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I was at he was filming a movie like a month ago. I was at the taping of the movie in Vegas.
You trying to top my story?
No. I'm just saying,
I'm
to add to it, the Paper Cup Boys. He like I don't know the Paper Cup Boys, and I don't know if they changed.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but he the way he rides for them and with them, I'm like, I don't know these guys, but
But those were his people for real. Naeem and Spank, those are those dudes that were sitting in Philly that were rocking with him. Like the Plastic Cup Boys, literally, this is not some bullshit. Like those were the dudes around him for real.
Wow.
And he said, "Come on out." And he took them out there. And Spank and Naeem, like, he don't get enough. I'm not trying to cape for the dude or whatever, because I know what goes on when you get that big.
Yeah.
But those are the real day ones that were with him at the comedy club when we were all getting paid $50 a show.
Man.
If that. Sometimes we were doing a show for free.
Shout out Reallyfe Street Stars, nigga.